Psalm 37 is where we pick it up tonight. So we head through the Bible and find ourselves in the book of Psalms. If you are a worrier, we have come to your psalm tonight, Psalm 37. So I think Psalm 37 is one of those psalms that has a way of becoming one of everybody's favorites at one time or another. It's one of the best known of all of the psalms because of the fact that it deals with a subject that we're all familiar with. David writes it late in his life, and he writes it to God's people, and he tells us not to worry when the wicked rule, when the evil rule. It's nice when an older man will, or an older person, come alongside the younger and encourage them in the Lord. And that's what David does. He looks at the nation of Israel, or he looks at who the psalm is written to, and he just, it's kind of like where he just says, listen, I know you're all stressed out about what's happening around you and the wicked and the positions that they have. Let's go and just take a walk and let me talk to you about that. You know, when you're stressed, someone will just just say, let's sit down and let me just talk to you about that a little bit. That kind of input is so valuable, and that's what this psalm does. And David begins it, and he says, do not fret because of evildoers. Now, it's got to be a problem that we have, because David repeats it 3 times in the psalm. He says, don't fret. Now, we look at the word fret, and we say, what does it mean? In the Hebrew, it's a fascinating word. It means to fume or to become warm because of evildoers. How many of you recognize it? Where you see what they're up to and you see their plans and what they're doing and all that stuff, and I'll tell you, they make me fume. And I find myself getting warm under the influence of, upset over the whole thing. And so he says, listen, don't fret because of evildoers. Now, one of the classic quotes concerning worry and the uselessness of worry is that worry is like rocking in a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but it doesn't accomplish anything. And that's really the truth. We get all fretted and our blood pressure goes through the ceiling and all of this. And I mean, what does it accomplish? He's speeding from one red light to the next red light. What does it accomplish in life? It doesn't accomplish anything at all. And so he says, don't fret because of evildoers, and nor be envious of the workers of iniquity. I mean, it's profitable for a while, but don't be envious of their prosperity. Well, why shouldn't I be envious? Because their life is short, that's why. For they shall soon be cut down like the grass and wither as a green herb. And so remember their end. Remember that their end comes quickly, and so don't unite with their sin, and because it's not worth it. And then, the question arises, well, if I'm not going to fret and I'm not going to fume and I'm not going to get all warm over things in life, that's going to provide me with a lot of spare time. So what should I do with all that new time I'm going to have in my life? And he tells us now what we need to do with that time. And he says, trust in the Lord and do good. Trust in Him because He's trustworthy. And that idea of trusting in Him. Put all of your weight on Him. Put it all on Him. Don't just put this situation on His shoulders or this, but lay the full weight of your life, the full weight of the concerns on Him. He can handle it. He's able to do it. Peter writes and he says, casting all of your cares on Him, knowing that He cares for you. And so all of the cares, the full weight, let's trust in Him. The psalmist says, trust in Him and then do good. Just keep trusting Him and then keep on doing good. Don't become like everyone around you. Don't let it make you like them. You keep doing good. And then he said, dwell in the land and feed on God's faithfulness. In other words, just keep on about your daily life. And one of the parables, it's been a busy weekend. In one of the parables, Jesus spoke, and one of the sentences that came out of that parable was the landowner speaking as he gave a stewardship really to some men, and he said to them, now occupy till I come. Take care of business until I come. And that's important. You know, we look and we see, and so much seems to be so far out of our control, you know, when the wicked do reign. I mean, if such a thing should ever happen. And they have all of this control, and they cause us to get warm and fuming and all that. You say, well, here I am, I'm just a, average citizen in Modesto, California, and they got me fuming, and, what can I do about it to change it? You can get frantic about that, at least I can. I know Psalm 37 very well. So what does he tell us to do? What can I do? What can I do, God? What can I do? Just occupy. Just live your life where I've put you. And do good. Live your life after me. This psalm is an interesting one because it reminds me of a guy in the Old Testament by the name of Elijah. And Elijah was, everything's got to be fire, it's got to be an earthquake, it's got to be, that kind of a rushing wind, or God's not working. And he comes from that great victory on Mount Carmel. God had a perfect chance to wipe out the wicked, to wipe out Jezebel and Ahab, and he didn't do it. Elijah has to feel like, man, you had your perfect chance to wipe them out, and here, you didn't do it, and he just is all bummed out about the whole thing, and so the Lord comes to him and, has to hunt him down. I mean, he's running away and just wants to die. Just kill me. You're not doing anything. You let all these people get elected like that, and I'm doing good. Kill me right on the spot. That's what he wants to do. He's a mighty man of God. Went from that mountaintop experience, and now he just wants to die. And God takes and puts him in that place on the mountain there, and then the Lord causes the earthquake to come, and the fire to come, and the rushing wind to come. In other words, he gives Elijah just a little more revelation of himself. And then he speaks in the still small voice. And when he speaks to Elijah, there is Elijah, it's not always going to be wind. And it's not always going to be fire. And it's not always going to be earthquakes. Sometimes it's just going to be still small voices. But it doesn't mean that things are out of control when I've gone quiet. It doesn't mean that. And then he does something very interesting with Elijah. He says, Elijah, here's the next thing I want you to do. And he gave him the next thing that he was supposed to do. And that was just as simple as that. Okay, you've had your, you're all bummed, and you've had your little pity party and the whole thing there and all, and I'm going to put it in the book. Because there's going to be an encouragement to people all through the ages, and put it in there. Now, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go and anoint this guy, and I want you to tear this guy's jacket up, and I want you to give him 10 pieces of it, and all this kind of, and he just gave him the next thing to do. In other words, just keep on going forward. Elijah, just keep on about your daily life. And it was a great encouragement to Elijah. And so David writes and says, dwell in the land, feed on his faithfulness, and then delight yourself in the Lord. In other words, the Lord's not only to be trusted, but he's to be enjoyed. Isn't it something? You look and say, oh boy, the wicked are reigning, the wicked are ruling, and there goes all my joy for the next X amount of years, or whatever it might be. No, God says, listen, don't just trust in me, but enjoy me. I'm here to be enjoyed. And sometimes it's not until things get really bad that we realize how much there is to be enjoyed in the Lord. Isn't it funny? The darker it gets, the harder it gets. It's a cinch, preaching today. Sometimes I think, boy, I'm glad I wasn't a preacher in the 50s or something. When the economy of the United States is going like gangbusters, we rule the whole world, onward and upward, every day and in every way we're getting better and better. And I mean, how do you spend 3/4 of your sermon trying to convince people that they're sinners and that things are a mess or they're going to be. Today you don't have to waste it. You just get to cut right to the chase. You don't have to convince them that things are in big trouble and we need to turn to the Lord. And I mean, people have a sense of that already right now. And so he says, delight yourself in the Lord, and then He'll give you the desires of your heart. Now, don't get that twisted around. That I'll only delight in Him when He gives me the desires of my heart. He says, delight yourself in the Lord, and then He'll give you the desires of your heart. Now, the beautiful thing about it is as I delight myself in the Lord, He changes the desires of my heart. He really does. And then He, not only does He change the desires of my heart, but then He supplies for those new desires. And it's just a beautiful work that He does. He said, commit your way to the Lord and trust in Him, and He'll bring it to pass. And He shall bring forth your righteousness as the light and your justice as the noonday. That verse 6 is a wonderful verse if you've ever been slandered and improperly slandered by someone else. And you start, that can make you fret and fume, can it? I mean, it really can. It makes you warm. And you hear about it. And here's this beautiful promise that the Lord will bring forth your righteousness, what was true, and that you were right in the situation, and He'll make it, your righteousness, as apparent as the sun is at noontime. That's what He's saying. You can't miss the sun at noontime. No clouds in the sky. I mean, it's apparent. It's a beautiful promise. As we just commit our way to the Lord and trust in Him, He'll be faithful. The old saying is, if we take care of our character, He'll take care of our reputation. And you find that to be true. Plus, don't believe everything you heard. I'm amazed at what I'm supposed to have said. I never did. I'm amazed at what sometimes, not you, nobody here tonight, but I'm amazed at what sometimes somebody will catch me at the back door right after the sermon. And they'll say, I thought that was great when you said such and such. And I never said that. That's heresy. I didn't say that. Don't go out of here saying that I said that. Things get goofed up when people are hearing stuff sometimes. And so, but you have to just commit all that. I make enough mistakes. Don't be dragging me into misheard ones. He said, rest in the Lord and wait patiently for Him. Do not fret because of him who prospers in his way, because of the man who brings wicked schemes to pass. Cease from anger. All right. Forsake wrath. Do not fret. It only causes harm. And now here, David is way ahead of, the medical information that we know about fretting and what it does to, the cardiovascular system and everything else. He says, listen, don't fret. Doesn't do any good. In fact, not only does it not do any good, it only causes harm. So don't get all angry. Don't get all filled with wrath. It only causes harm. And then he goes on, and now he talks about the end of the wicked. And he's going to contrast between the end of the wicked and the end of the righteous. And that's what you have to remember. We live in this little time-space continuum. I don't know what that means, but I've heard it on a lot of Chuck Missler tapes, and so I throw it in when I can, and someday I'm going to learn what it means. But we live in the time-space continuum. Did I tell you that we live in the time-space continuum? And living in this time-space continuum, we just see a little tiny bit of things. That's how I understand it. We don't, God's got a picture that's absolutely huge. And, we look and say, man, this is a big thing, and it's all, going to go on forever and ever. And God looks at it and says, it's not even worth sweating over. It's okay. A lie is never going to, have victory over the truth. It's going to all, work out. And so he begins to talk about the end. And that's what we have to remember. There's an end to all of this. And we're on a path that has an end. And the wicked are on a path that has an end. There's a way that seems right to a man. The writer of Proverbs said, there's a way that seems right to a man, but the end thereof is the way of death. And so God looks and He reminds us, don't just worry about where you are in this place on the path. We're looking broader than that. We're looking at where this path ends. Don't get off of the path of righteousness because it's a little troublesome in this particular spot and then get over here on the one that ends up in death. Don't let it move you. And so he reminds us that there's an inheritance associated with all of this. There's an end. And so you don't want the end of the wicked. And so don't let it move you. He said, for evildoers shall be cut off, but those who wait on the Lord, they shall inherit the earth. And yes, one day we will. And yet, for yet a little while, and the wicked shall be no more. Indeed, you'll look diligently for his place. Wouldn't that be something? And it shall be no more. Think of the Modesto Bee one day. The wicked are no more. We searched everywhere for them, and they're gone. Wouldn't that be something? I'm waiting for that day. And then he says, the meek shall inherit the earth and shall delight themselves in the abundance of peace. The wicked plots against the just and gnashes at him with his teeth. And the Lord laughs at him, the wicked. For the Lord sees that his day is coming. And the wicked have drawn the sword. They've bent the bow to cast down the poor and needy, to slay those who are of upright conduct. Their sword, though, shall enter their own heart, and their bows shall be broken. In other words, God will turn it around on them. And then verse 16, one of the most beautiful in the whole Bible. A little that a righteous man has is better than the riches of not just one wicked, the riches of many wicked. Isn't that the truth? This is one of those verses you just have to kind of put on a card and then take a walk with it. Just the little things in life. This is one of the great things about becoming a Christian, is to learn to appreciate the little things in life and the gift that they are. You can live your 70 here and miss all of life. But the Lord slows us down to enjoy it. For the arms of the wicked shall be broken, but the Lord upholds the righteous. The Lord knows the days of the upright and their inheritance. There we see it repeated again. We find it in verse 11, verse 18, 22, 29, 34, of this inheritance. And their inheritance shall be forever, and they shall not be ashamed in the evil time, and in the days of famine they shall be satisfied. But the wicked shall perish, and the enemies of the Lord, like the splendor of the meadows, shall vanish. In the smoke they shall vanish away. The wicked borrows and does not repay, but the righteous shows mercy and gives. For those who are blessed by him shall inherit the earth, but those who are cursed by him shall be cut off. The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord. Isn't that nice? And then God delights in his way. And though he fall, he shall not be utterly cast down. We may stumble a little bit, but the Lord restores us. For the Lord upholds him with his hand. And then David, I love this. I have been young, and now am old, and I have not seen the righteous forsaken, nor his descendants begging bread. He is ever merciful and lends, and his descendants are blessed. And so there's that idea, not only as it relates to walking the right way for what it means to our life, but we walk righteously, even if it's at great sacrifice in our lifetime, thinking of the descendants, thinking of the kids, thinking of the grandkids, the great-grandkids, because that's how far our influence can be. Depart from evil and do good and dwell forevermore, for the Lord loves justice and does not forsake his saints. They are preserved forever, but the descendants of the wicked shall be cut off, and the righteous shall inherit the land and dwell in it forever. The mouth of the righteous speaks wisdom, and his tongue talks of justice. The law of his God is in his lips, and none of his steps shall slide. The wicked watches the righteous, and seeks to slay him. The Lord will not leave him in his hand, nor condemn him when he is judged. Wait on the Lord, keep his way, and he will exalt you to inherit the land. When the wicked are cut off, you shall see it. And it's one of the great things is the study of history, the history of man. Now, one day, wickedness is going to be cut off ultimately and completely. But you see these blocks of time where it looked like, these lies and wickedness that they were going to prevail forever. But they always fall by the wayside. And then there's this move of God. There's a sweep again of what is right. Because the thing about wickedness is that it has the seeds of its own destruction right within it. So as it moves forward, it just sows its own destruction. It has to collapse. A lie, can't hold up forever. Verse 35, I've seen the wicked, David said, in great power and spreading like a native green tree. In other words, it is growing fast. And yet he passed away, and behold, he was no more. Indeed, I sought him, and he could not be found. Mark the blameless man, and observe the upright, for the future of that man is peace. But the transgressors shall be destroyed together, and the future of the wicked shall be cut off. But the salvation of the righteous is from the Lord. He is their strength in time of trouble, and the Lord shall help them and deliver them. He will deliver them from the wicked and save them, because they